let's talk about percents. Your goal with many percent problems is going to be just to convert it from the English language into an equation. And if you can reword the question in such a way that you can just convert it word for word, if you can just identify what the basic question is, then there are some keywords that just translate into algebra. So whenever you have the word what, that's going to be x. Percent is always going to be times 1 over 100. Anything like is or was, that is going to be an equal sign. Of is multiply. So if I just had straight up a question that I could just translate word for word, what is 10% of 96? So numbers are just numbers. Whatever the number is, you just copy that number. So what is x? Is equals 10, that's just a number. Percent times 1 over 100. Of times 96. So x equals 10 over 100 times 96. And then depending on what you're using this for and what kind of calculator you'll have will depend on how you enter this, but this just comes up to be 9.6. Okay, but the trick is often to figure out what the question is and then to reword it in the way that is just, what is the basic question? So let's look at an example. Okay, so here's a problem. Jill has 32 classmates. 40% of them live within the city limits. How many do not live within the city limits? So you want to figure out, well, what is my percent question? If I had to write this as a percent question, what would the question be? And you can answer this in two ways. You can either figure out how many live in the city limits and then subtract from 32, or you could say, well, if 40% live within the city limits, 60% do not live in the city limits. So what is the basic question? The basic question is, what is 60% of 32? And then once you have that, you can just translate that. X is 60 times 1 over 100. Of is times 32. And then you would just have 60 times 1 over 100 times 32. And we get 19.8. So obviously you can't have 19.8 classmates, so we would say the answer is going to be 20. Okay, let's look at another example. Okay, the library has 4,206 books. 1,020 are mystery books. What percent are mystery books? So what is our basic percent question? We need to know what percent of 4,206 is 1020. That's one way to write it. Or you could say 1020 is what percent of 4,206. Either of those are fine. And now it's in a format that we can just translate, just straight word for word into algebra. So 1020 is equals, what is x? Percent times 1 over 100 of times 4206. Okay, so here we've got x times 1 over 100 times 4206. So we need to do the multiplication of the numbers first. So 1020 equals x times, so 4206 times 1 over 100 would be 42.06. And then just another way to write that would be 1020 equals 42.06x, and then to solve for x, divide both sides by 42.06. So 1020 divided by 42.06. And I get 24.25. And so my answer is 24.25%. And we can check and see if that makes sense. 25% is about a quarter. And we had 4,000 books, about 4,000 books, and about 1,000 of them were mystery, so about a quarter makes sense.